For today's tutorial, we are going to create this cute little winter themed gnome. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy he is to make. Alright, so here are all the parts to our winter gnome, and let's look at what the parts are first, and then I'll start putting them together and talk to you about the rules about using the pattern and where the pattern is. So we have 4 body pieces, or base pieces. We have 3 hats, 3 noses. We have 6 hands, 3 right and 3 left. We have 6 shoes, again 3 left and 3 right. 2 pom-poms, 2 hat brims, 3 of the beards, and 3 snowflakes. These are cut from medium weight white cardstock so that we can glue them together and then paint them and make them look like what we want instead of having them look like cardstock. There's a free downloadable pattern, and the link for that is in the blog post that is for this video, and it will be linked in the description box below the video. The link will take you to a downloadable file that contains a PNG version that can be cut on an electronic cutting machine like a Cricut. It will also contain a PDF if you want to hand cut this. And there in the file also is a text document that will help you to size everything on your electronic cutting machine so that it comes out the right size. The rules for this are very simple. I want you can make as many of these as you want. You can sell the finished gnomes. I just ask that you don't sell my pattern or give my pattern away. If someone else wants the pattern, send them to the blog, send them to the video. Because I spend a lot of time putting these together, and the only compensation I get is the little bit that YouTube and Google pay me when you guys click on the blog and click on the YouTube channel. So I am going to continue putting these together. I'll put the bodies together. I will make 2 feet. I will make 2 hands. I'll make a nose, a hat, 1 pom-pom, 1 trim for it, 1 beard, and 1 snowflake. And when these are all completely dried, the glue does need to be dry before we move to our next step. When my glue is dried completely, I'll come back and we can go on to the next step. I'll see you then. Alright, my glue has dried overnight, and then I went ahead and put these on a piece of tape that is sticky side up. So we've got the snowflake, the hat band, and the pom-pom. Those are going to be painted white. We've got the beard, which will be painted white but with a little adjustment. We have the hands and the nose, which will be flesh. The shoes are black. And then the body and the hat are going to be blue. And I put out just a little bit of each color. That way it'd be a little quicker to do. Now, these will probably take 2 coats because we want to make sure that we get a good coat on them. You want to make sure you have your edges done. So we'll do these. Let me get myself a black brush and get the feet done. Oops, I want to get that. Forgot to do the beard. Because what I like to do is once I get the black, and I like to, this keeps everything cleaner by doing it on, putting my paint on here, keeping these on the tape, and also the tape holds those still. What I like to do is put just a little bit of black or gray. Sometimes I use gray, sometimes I use black. But I like to put that onto the beard. It just gives the beard a little more color, a little more definition. It doesn't look quite so flat that way. Now, I did remember to buy a flesh tone, so I don't have to mix my flesh color anymore. And this paint will need to dry. Once it's dry, I'll come back, I'll check that I've got a good coverage, that I've got my edges done, and if I decide I need a second coat, I'll go ahead and do that. And then the paint does need to dry all the way before we go on to assembling, because assembling this is our next step. I have found that if I don't give plenty of time for my glue to dry, that sometimes, not every time, but sometimes when I add glue to it, if it's not dried all the way, I can end up with the paint kind of reactivating and getting all over everything. So I like to make sure that is completely dry. And craft paint doesn't take long to dry. So when I get this all ready to go, I will come back and we can start assembling. All right, my paint is all the way dry, and I'm happy with what we've got so far. I've got the edges covered and the spots that are going to show. And for the most part, I'm leaving things on here until I glue them on. So we start with the beard and the backing and the shoes. I almost forgot the feet. Because it's easiest to line these pieces up now than to wait and try to line them up later. We put a few pieces on at a time. If you haven't watched this process before, I put a few pieces on at a time and let this glue set up long enough that they won't move. That makes keeping everything lined up much, much easier. So I just use I don't know if I mentioned earlier, I've used a thick tacky glue and not very much of it. As you can see, I'm just spreading a very thin coat on. And it's okay if a little glue oozes out. We are going to be putting Mod Podge over the whole thing, or another clear sealer of your choice over everything. It helps everything stay together, and it gives it a nice consistent finish. But make sure that you line up the feet with the straight edge of the shoes or feet with the bottom straight edge of the backing. And make sure that the beard comes no lower than the bottom of the flat edge there. And now I'm going to grab my snowflake because we need to do just a little more to our snowflake. And I'm looking to see, I should have gotten tape out earlier. Yes, I do have that. So I have a piece of paper, and I'm basically going to set up the same kind of spot where I put down some tape. I'm just using some washi tape this time because I don't need the great big wide piece. I just want this to stay still. If you don't have it where it's kind of anchored down, it makes it really hard to do things without getting stuff all over your fingers. Yeah, that's fine. I'm happy with that. Now I have some Mod Podge, which I should have taken the lid off of before. And I'm just going to take a brush. Now, if you watch my channel before, you know I absolutely hate glitter. But there are times when glitter is something that just makes the project work. I'm doing this over a piece of printer paper. You could pull something out of your recycling bin, or you could use a piece of printer paper. Cover that snowflake in Mod Podge, and then this is kind of a iridescent-y type glitter. It's called Crystal. It was the best one I had. So I'm going to let this Mod Podge dry. I'm going to let this glue set up, and when that is done, I'll come back and we can go on to our next step. All right, this glue has set up. It's not dry all the way, but it's set up enough that the beard and the shoes are not going to move if I bump them. Now we're going to add the hat and the nose. And it's kind of important that these two pieces go on together. And kind of eyeball where you're going to want your hat. If you want to, you could mark on the back so you know where it's going to land. But something to keep in mind. The only two places that the hat and the backing touch are right at the tip of this and right at the bottom of the hat. So the only places you need to add glue are right up here and right here. Any other glue you add is just going to be extra and it's not really going to help you any. Line it up where you want it. Then put a little glue in this area. And I like to make sure I get this nose in at this point simply because it makes it easier if I have to adjust anything. If I decide, oh, that nose doesn't look good in that spot, I can move the hat. Well, and that's definitely not going to look good because his nose is crooked. Come on. And the nose, in theory, should fit really well in there because I actually used the nose piece to cut that little divot out of the hat. So I'm going to let that sit. Sometimes I go ahead and add the trim to the hat. I'm going to wait until this glue gets a chance to sit today. And when that has set up a little bit, I'll be back and we'll go to the next step. All right, the Mod Podge has had some time to dry, so now I've got to get this off. Which, yeah, it's going to stick a little. And I will agree, glitter is gorgeous. I just hate glitter being on everything after you use it. So off camera, I'm going to do some trimming up and getting rid of the excess glitter. I'll put this glitter back in my container. And when I get this cleaned up, I'll come back and we can finish the assembly of our gnome. All right, our snowflake is cleaned up okay. It's not perfect, but it will be fine. I'm going to take some glue and put on the back. And you can put this anywhere on the gnome, you know, that looks good to you. There's no specific placement. My glue has been setting for a couple of days, so it's nice and thick. It is a rather large snowflake, but I thought it was cute that way. Go. Get glue on the back of the hands. Now keep in mind there is a right hand and a left hand. The thumb goes to the top. There's a little point at the top that represents the thumb. Now, let's see if I get these off. We have the trim for the hat. And these pieces, I mean, all these pieces, you can use as many or as few as you want. You don't have to put the snowflake on. You could have yours holding something else. I thought the snowflake was awfully pretty. You could leave the, obviously you leave the glitter off if you want to. And then we have a little pom-pom for the top of his hat. Come on. There we go. And then I was looking through my glitter drawer to find that crystal glitter, and I found this ornament filler glitter stuff that I got at the dollar store a couple of years ago. And it's got some white in it. And I thought this might be kind of fun. Put that there and get my piece of raw spaghetti. put as many or as few of these on as you would like. Or again, you could leave them off. Let's see, I want one more because it always looks better to have an odd number. And all you've got to do is just make sure the tip of your spaghetti, of your raw spaghetti, is just barely damp. And you can get shaped glitter-ish pieces like this at the dollar store where they have the nail art stuff also, or other stores that have nail art glitter. A lot of times there's some really pretty shapes. So I'm going to let this glue dry completely, and then we'll come back and coat him with a coat of Mod Podge so he'll be ready to display. All right, my glue is dried to the point where it's at least clear. And you want to make sure that your glue has gone clear before you put the Mod Podge on, because there's a chance it could stay cloudy if you don't. I'm going to use satin Mod Podge, and I've put some here because there's glitter here. I don't want to take any kind of a risk of getting glitter in my Mod Podge bottle, because then I'll have glitter on everything I make. And it's still a fairly full bottle, so the brush, once it touches this project, is not going to go in that bottle again until it's thoroughly cleaned. So coat everything, including the glitter. Yeah, that'll take a little bit of sparkle off of it. It'll also seal it in so you don't have glitter everywhere. Once this side is dry, and work underneath the pieces too, between the layers if you can. Once this is dry, I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to Mod Podge from the back, and again making sure I get the sides, making sure those edges of those layers are sealed with Mod Podge with a couple of coats, along with the paint that we already put on, will help this to stay together long term. So once this dries, I'll flip it over, I'll put a coat on the back, and when that's dry, I'll meet you at the dollhouse and we can see how this looks with some of our snow-themed things we made last winter. So I'll see you there. All right, our little winter gnome has his Mod Podge all dry, and I've set him over on the front porch of the beachside bungalow along with a lot of our other snow or winter themed items we've made the last few years. I think he fits right in, and he's going to be cute all winter long. Just a note, you may need to add a few more little pieces of glitter onto that snowflake depending on how heavy you put on your Mod Podge. Mine kind of lost its sparkle, so I sprinkled on just 2 or 3 more just to make it a little more noticeable. So be sure and check the blog post for photos, my notes, and any other information along with the download links for the pattern. Thank you very much for watching today. If you liked the video, be sure and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. What kinds of things would you like to see in future videos? Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.